who knows? We might be able to get up to Echo of Nultharion. Certainly we'll get to Echo of Nultharion on our next raid night.
That'll be the only wall.
To be honest, I'm getting to the stage where my main criticism is there's no Mythic 10, so we can't step up into that next level of difficulty if we want to.
I'm gonna say that's a bit of a weird one because we don't have 10 players in the dot.
Okay,
we do have a fairly flexible roster of players, and we usually run at like 15 now.
It's tricky.
That's the problem. Like,
because you don't want to add more difficulty modes. Maybe if there was a way, it's like, can I just pull the lever on heroic and like get a mid-level between heroic and mythic because I want to keep on going. But then a lot of people just be like, hey, bro, you put 85 difficulty modes in the game now and it's a fucking mess. So I don't want to, I don't want to do that at all. But
I think the alternative is basically, just this has definitely been a very undertuned raid where we probably shouldn't be walking over 7 bosses because we walked over 4. And to be fair, some of it is we're a lot better than we were last season.
We're so much better.
Extremely better. We're better geared comparatively because I've been able to run M+ and not wanting to stab ourselves in the eyeballs. Stuff like that has kind of led to this, but it is also like generally understood to be substantially undertuned compared to most other raids, and also designed to be substantially easier.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the cases of, we think that'll be better for the game overall. It's maybe a little bit of a cost to us because we're just a little bit like better than what Blizzard kind of expect. But yeah,
I think that this new tuning is actually potentially really important for the game.
Yeah, as we will, I'm sure we'll figure out once we look at raid numbers and go into a bit of detail about talking about how the raid numbers in the past are gone.
I have a feeling.
Oh yeah, but it's like it's the same. It's the same with the game overall.
Yeah,
where everything's going to go down until it goes back up.
Yeah, they need as people do like to say in the internet, a concept that is kino as fuck.
No, it's not that. No, I'm talking about that. I'm talking about them needing patience because you can't go, hey, we're better now, and everyone goes, that's great. We're very happy that you're better now. We'll be back immediately. You can't just go, hey, you can't flick the switch and have your player base back. You can't flick the switch and have a new player base. You have to put the grind in. You look at No Man's Sky as the prime example of this in video games. You can't go, hey, we've made one patch and this is looking really good now. Yeah. And then everyone says, you're forgiven. It has to be, how many patches you got there? Is that there? Well, you did promise us, let's use a numerical scale, you did promise us 10 and you kind of gave us a 4. So we don't care that you're a 10 already. We don't care that you're a 12. We need you to be like a 16 before we're willing to forgive for shipping us a 4 instead of 10.
I guess, do you know what I'd almost be okay with? Oh, and I know this is a bit awkward, but maybe on heroic mode. Remember Ulduar, you hit the button, you activate the hard mode. I would be okay if they, to whatever degree is possible, and I know there will be breakpoints, whatever, if they could kind of backport some of those mythic mechanics into the scaling framework of heroic as an optional difficulty mode, purely just so that after you do heroic, you can, without having to change the format in which you play the game, be able to just have a bit more content, a bit more challenge. Maybe it guarantees or very much increases the drop rate of some of that very rare gear, or, I don't know exactly how you would do it. I guess more than provide a solution, I am just trying to say heroic is really fun, but to do mythic, a standard heroic curve guild, they won't be able to do mythic regardless of its challenge, because changing to a fixed 20-person format is not compatible with the social structure and, just way that guild plays. And it's weird. There's times I say this. I remember, Preach reacted to me saying this, and he was just all like, oh, no, heroic 10 or mythic 10, bad idea. This not really a problem, sort of. And in my head, it's like, no, a lot of the people, like so many of the people who talk in this space are mythic raiders, have been their whole time. To them, they are there to mythic raid. And they are moving around guilds regularly to mythic raid. Whereas for so many other people, for the actual audience that is going to hold World of Warcraft up as a game with a large player base, It's not that. It's people playing together. So I feel like this new move from normal to heroic feels really good, but then the problem is that Mythic is a different category of play. It's not that Mythic is harder, obviously it is, but it's a different category. Whereas I at least remember in the past when it was just normal and heroic mode and Throne of Thunder, after we killed Lei Shen, what did we do? We did Jinrock heroic, right? You know, that was the way that, like, back in those days, my guild could just keep on playing and playing and playing. Whereas now it's just like, bam, get curved, done. That's it.
Yeah, it's weird to me because I just feel like it's a matter of tuning where you wouldn't be saying this if heroic was harder, because it'd just be like, here's a pretty natural thing. It feels like we're going to be blasting through it, and then.
Do you remember in our raid last night, whenever Pops, you know, essentially said something to the degree of like, you know, oh, actually you guys are pretty good at the game. Yeah. You know, compared to a lot of the people that I've played with, all the guilds I've been in, you know, just stuff. Like you're all harding yourself, but you're not that bad.
I would argue we're.
I mean,
but like
I completely disagree. With shit, but
garbage.
You know, obviously there was a bit of truth in that, and you know, you think about. Again, you think about that fucking Asmongold viewer raid of Sepulchre of the first ones.
Yes.
Where, you know, yep, Cat Danny just gets to do a clip that launches multiple nuclear torpedoes into Blizzard's hull. But it's like, well, we've looked at the heroic numbers. You know, we have been following these numbers on a global basis as we've been, you know, pulling all the data from Raider.io, seeing what people have been doing in our statistics videos, and like the heroic raiding population's fucking tiny. I mean, in absolute terms or whatever, like it is literally a lot of people, but compared to what it was in Legion, it's fucking tiny, right? Compared to what it's been in the past of the game, it's tiny. It's still tiny. The launch of this expansion took us back to Sanctum of Domination numbers. I mean, that is depressing, considering how good Vault was, you know? So I'm then just kind of Dr. Frankenberry, there's more people playing Rogue and Classic than Heroic Raid and Retail.
Jeez Louise, that's a lot of
a
lot of people not playing very nice raid. Very nice raid, very good raid. I've spoken in England since I were twice.
I don't know what you meant.
Yeah, no, raid's good. People should play them. It's very sad that they're not, because they clearly put a lot of effort into the design of heroic raids, because they are very good.
Yeah, like,
I think they're fantastic.
To be clear, compared to Molten Core, Blackwing Lair, Onyxia, like, those are fun for their time with their mechanics, but they're total dog shit compared to what they make now.
Yeah, so that's like a whole massive conversation over
Suck my dick
what people
Classic WoW
actually want to play and what's better, kind of stuff like
that. I get that.
Yeah,
and I think that what Classic WoW does is it magnifies the importance on less, and that creates extreme clarity and quantity, or just great quantity of meaning within a smaller number of mechanics and a slower pace. Which overall, I think to a lot of people feels like something that's more approachable, more meaningful, with a longer term payoff than a game that is just fast, high APM, boom, 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 which is what a lot of modern WoW can feel like to those people. So I think that is why some of those raids will feel better. I guess I would just say, like, these raids are actually really well designed. The classes are in a really good stage. And I definitely feel like, you know, it's BFA and Shadowlands that have got us into this. It's definitely not Dragonflight that's responsible for Dragonflight's not good numbers. And here we have an update from our man in the field, Dakor. He says, the whole tier numbers for Vault is just above Sanctum, similar to our earlier 1 month out analysis.
Ouch. Just above Sanctum is not good. Sanctum was not a good time for anyone.
Over half of from Nathria, and funny enough, Sofa was like half again. Yeah, like Sepulchre.
That's kind of normal, I think. If we look at numbers historically, people just fall off, or no?
Legion. Do you know what Legion does? Legion fucking well goes like that.
Oh, that's because
slaps hard.
Yeah, it's because Legion was good.
You just look at Antorus, it's like, that shit's fucking cool.
Yeah.
No wonder people went there. Dakor, I don't know if you happen to have them to hand, but Could you, sir, whet our appetite with any numbers for this current tier?
He's probably too busy being disconnected on doing the world quest with the chain. The snail chain world quest. He's posted that in Discord. Love when world quests work very well. Starlight Cavern definitely running into some issues from being technically very new in terms of a lot of the implementation, I think anyway. Buggy ass piece of shit.
Yeah, Dark Soul just said, from a design standpoint, it's super awkward that there's just a wall that should technically be a funnel. Heroic Raiders set their own end, not the game.
Yeah.
That's the interesting thing.
There's something... I don't really know what they can do about it without destroying the institution that is Mythic Raiding.
Yeah.
It is really very, very awkward.
Which we should say, the current institution of Mythic Raiding is a new-ish thing. A lot of people, you got to remember anchoring. The way that it was for the longest time is, from Cataclysm to the end of Mob, which is 2 expansions in fairness, but that's how it evolved anyway after Wrath of the Lich King. But you had 10 and 25, normal and heroic, right?
See, that was 20 billion years ago now.
It was 20 billion years ago, but the thing there is, you could do normal 25 into heroic 25. Remember, Mythic didn't exist back then. Heroic was Mythic, so to speak. You could do normal 10 into heroic 10. And remember, back then, a normal 10 is the equivalent of a heroic 10 today. Or, a heroic with 10 people in it.
Yes, asterisk. There's definitely been a consistent difficulty scaling up with Mythic as a concept. But yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, the first tier of Cataclysm was actually hard relative to what had been the norm in the game, that had really, really destroyed the raiding scene because of a lack of approachability for people who were previously supported.
Yeah, but I mean, what I mean to say is, if you take a Mythic guild who just killed Sarkra, say, is it BDGG got 4th? If you send them, to be fair, that 4th's pretty good, but if you take someone who's cleared 9 out of 9 and go like Mythic and go, right, go sort out a wee Cataclysm work there, or we miss heroic, I'm assuming they'd walk in and just blast, get over in one good run and go, there you go. But that is mechanical complexity skilling, because players get better over time.
The best players get better over time.
Yeah, which is what we've run into, where we now have been raiding for. Now, we didn't do heroic Sepulchre. And I think we give up midway through Heroic Sanctum because Fate Scribe can fuck off forever, eternally. And Sylvanas wasn't going to be a fun heroic fight. But we did, we did Nathra on heroic.
One of the coolest end bosses ever, Sylvanas Windrunner. Yeah. Would you like to run up a chain for 4 minutes?
Yeah, we did the normals of that. There? Then with Vault we did heroic and really actually tried to improve and stuff. And now we're just kind of we're kind of walking over heroic so far. Maybe Neltharion and Sarkgrath will be actual proper walls, as opposed to, we're sprinting and now there's a knee-high thing we'll trip over. But yeah.
Well, one thing that is interesting is I've seen loads of people in the Mythic community, including from the World First slice of that seem to, number one, think that heroic is tuned a bit easy, which I would agree with, but also I'm seeing a lot of people actually be quite happy with the Mythic tuning.
Yes.
It seems like this is a Mythic tuning that, with a few weeks of heroic gearing, we're not going to end up in some Sepulchre-like situation where Blizzard has just got to go nerf, 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 nerf.
Well, there are a couple of things that feed into that.
I'm just going to get a charger.
Yeah, there's a couple of things which obviously everything I was going to say was aimed at him, so it's not completely pointless to say, except I'll tell you anyway. So, yeah.
The fourth wall's been broken.
Yeah, the fourth wall's been utterly destroyed. Turns out you're here too, chat. Yeah, the reason for Mythic tuning being considered pretty good this time, and you might see people who disagree, and those people have I'm sorry about the squeaking here, I'll fix it at some point. Basically, the upgrade system being highly gamed has allowed people to gear very hard and very fast, where you basically max out your heroic stuff, doing proper stuff, doing everything right, you max out heroic in no time whatsoever. And that means people sprinted to finish the heroic gear with splits, and then they go, okay, we're completely, that's true, Ambadesh. So it's all completely finished, and then you you're geared way faster than usual and as tuned as usual, which means some people have kind of, we kind of walked over this tier. That's unfortunate. But I think for the vast majority of Mythic guilds, it's going to be actually pretty nice, because Race to Word First tuning is not average Mythic guild. You're going to have people who are like, they'll be gearing faster. They'll finish it actually a little bit faster instead of taking until the next tier launches and, are we going to get cutting edge? Now anyone that's kind of devoted enough to cutting edge, and obviously anyone who's good enough will get it no matter what. But it seems like the barrier has been dropped a little bit, which means players don't have to grind as hard. They don't have to spend as much time. But it is still a satisfying, hey, we're doing a pretty challenging thing. It's hard. We have to do all the same steps. We have to get all of our gearing done. We have to get all of our organization done. We have to practice the fights until we're good enough at it to do it. But then it doesn't actually go really like horribly bad. It doesn't take, like, I don't know how long it took, say, Dakor, who's the Mythic Raider on our team. I don't know how long it took his guild, but it took a long ass time. And I remember like the relief coming from some people whenever they were like, we've finally killed Razageth on Mythic. We can take a break before the next tier, because it is just grueling even when you're doing 2 or 3 nights a week. And this is where I want to talk about something that they said over in FF with the last live letter from the producer. And they're making a change where, and this has been explained to me twice by separate people, and I may have just forgotten again, but I'm fairly sure it's like, you don't need to do the hardest last Savage boss to get full Bisque gear now, because they moved the body drop to the 3rd tier. So this will be P11S. We'll have it. And because the weapon, which you usually get from repeated kills repeated kills from the last tier, now it is actually because it's the last patch and it's the last raid tier of the expansion, the relic weapon's technically Bis this time. Mm-hmm. So like you can do Bis without doing the hardest boss, which means gearing will be slightly faster, which means you'll be done a bit quicker. You'll likely be doing tuning. The tuning will likely be easier enough or something similar to that. And that was, I believe that was described by UCP as, people got shit to do. People got video games to play. This was the same, I think he explained this the same time where he opened stream, because they usually have a little segment of like basically live testing before they start proper, and they're sitting there and talking. And it's like, he's just playing Tears of the Kingdom. Literally on stream playing Tears of the Kingdom. They're laughing about it and joking about it. And then FF16 is, Relic won't be this for a while, but close enough. It's still, you get more gear easier, faster. Not exactly perfect, but for those who will take that point to clear, you get your stuff better. But then, he goes, Tears of the Kingdom, I'm going to play that. People go play that, finish raid, whatever. FF16 is coming out, and it's just, you have to be, now more than ever, you have to be, I'm talking about FF14 6.4 patch being the last raid tier of their expansion. That's what I'm talking about. But it's like, it's just people, you have to be less aggressive with asking people for their time now. You have to say, if you want to spend your time here, you can. But we can't ask you for it because you ain't got time anymore. Especially as you're in MMO places where the audience is generally going to be aging. Especially like audiences who are in there. Like obviously, continuing with FF14 as an example, obviously that game got a burst of popularity a couple of years ago. But even then, like that game's been out for 10 years. And even if you look at the popularity from Shadowbringers from, 2020, it's still almost 3 years later. And 3 years may sound like, to someone like me who, 3 years ago, I was 26. I'm now 29, coming on 30. Like, yeah, that's fine. I'm still roughly in the same stage of my life. But if you go to someone who's like 17 or 18, and then you give them 3 years, they're going to be like finishing uni and having to go start a job. Or someone who's like 15 or 16 and playing, then they have like a completely massive different like time scale. I think time is accelerating for people so much. And you look at that and how battle passes come around. And all these things are like, how do we monetize time further? How do we press people for time further? And people are just kind of like, I want to give my time, not have it taken from me. I want to be able to do more things. And I think people will be a little bit more comfortable. Because, ultimately, I could have said all of this by going, what Brelshar said, people just don't want to spend a month on a boss these days. The people who want to do that, I can guarantee you, are a tiny fraction of any player base at all in any game. No one's going to want to spend a month on a boss. They want to get the boss, get the feel-good chemicals from killing the boss, and then go do another thing. Because there's so much more to do now than there ever has been before.
Yeah.
And people feel that. So the more a game can be like, all right, you want to finish up in a couple of weeks and have a good time and then come back later? Sure. I think that's the case for me getting KSM in like a week and a bit. Whenever we get ahead of the curve, I'll maybe do some alt stuff. I'll maybe like get an Evoker ready for Ogvoker in 10.1.5 and maybe do some stuff on that when it drops. But otherwise, yeah, fire alarm. We're in a pretty dense area here. And apologies for any noise, but if we keep the windows closed, we'll suffocate and die.
Yep.
It's a very stuffy day. So I think it is more like the trust in the player to play the game they want. And then be like, I'm done. I'll come back later. Yep. Sorry about that. But yeah, I think that's the case of the more Blizzard can do that, but they've done it pretty sharp this time. They've kind of hit the brakes compared to the first season, and everyone's kind of going, oh, I'm out of content, what do I do? And you're like, well, you go outside, and then you come back later when there's more content. And I think that, how do I describe it? 'Cause I don't want to be too derogatory about it, right? Someone's in a car theft spree.
That wouldn't surprise me with this area.
Yeah, so I don't know how hot. I'm not going to say how hot because that'll start a whole thing. It's just very stuffy.
Humidity.
Yes. So I think, what was I going to say about that? Someone's in the car theft spree. I wanted to address that. No, people wouldn't steal cars around here. They just break into them. And sometimes just for the crack because culture is important. But I think it is just, people need to go, right, let's not try to farm our players. Let's give them relative freedom. But in this case, doing it sharp is going to have a slight bit of an issue. Because, how do I describe this without being rude? Sometimes you can take the rat out of the maze. Sometimes you can't take the maze out of the rat. That's the way I would describe it. And it is a little bit rude to say it that way, but it is fundamentally the case. If people are used to it one way, then it changes. Yeah. They'll not know what to do. And they'll be like, I'm playing less content, I'm annoyed. As opposed to, hey, do you want to finish your game and then go play another game or play it on your own terms or anything like that? And I think there'll be an adjustment period, but generally speaking, I think this is a way healthier for the game overall. It's to not say that would be to be for start lying and also going back on what I said every time I talked about why FF14 was doing so well for players, even in the initial time I actually explained to the people. Yes, please go close that window.
This is going to suck!
Yeah, sure is. But is close that window fast enough there? Yeah, so it's like, this will pay dividends theoretically in the end. If it doesn't, there's some other factor at work.
Yep. It's why, to be honest, right? When I look at content not doing well on the channel, I honestly don't really give a shit that much these days. I'm just going to try and double down on like the people who actually do like the content because we have a pretty strong conviction the game's good in the future. And if worst comes to worst, just take on a little bit of debt to cash flow because it's fine. The actual fundamentals are there. Sure. Like, I got into this job whenever I was hooked in the game, at points during MOP and was just totally in there. And I have not felt as motivated to just come home from work and play a fuckload of WoW. I have not felt as motivated as I am right now in years and years and years. So for me, that is the only signal that I need.
Yeah, that's I think the best way to put it overall. Because I mean, especially if you, and that's why it's unfortunate that we had to talk so much about how they've maybe dropped the ball a little bit on some of the more casual WoW content this patch. In terms of execution, in terms of how it's been framed and felt, and how players have experienced it, because obviously that's the player base that's going to matter a lot. But as Night Stalker said earlier, M+ seasonal numbers are through the roof.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. So clearly it's a case of the game's kind of changing a little bit more to be M+ friendly and M+able, because of obviously the gearing system will do a lot of work there, especially if it's easier. So if they are pushing people into a little bit doing that, and obviously if people aren't in Zaralek Cavern because they're not playing the game, that sucks. If people aren't in Zaralek Cavern because they're in M+, that's great. as long as they're catered to in both ways. And with Forbidden Reach, now we do need to have a question about, I remember someone brought up in chat there a second ago, we do need to have a consideration of how the mid-season patches are for retention and how good they actually are. But Forbidden Reach was populated as hell when I was there, consistently. Way more so than Zaralek Cavern, which makes me think it might be a phasing kind of thing. But there's certainly a case for there's plenty of world content. It's just been delivered in a slightly different way than usual, I think. So if you can get people starting to do M+ and enjoying that and kind of create funnels around different forms of content, which they're trying to do, which is they're also doing it in a way that feels friendly and feels engaging for people, which is almost like they're managing to thread a needle on a design front that I never truly expected.